Welcome to the Near Memo, a weekly conversation about search, social, and commerce. What happened, why it matters, and the implications for local.
Okay, so speaking of change or the lack thereof, Mike, you wanted to talk about a recent report about, I'm getting better and better at these segues.
Amazing segue. One of your best.
A report from about mobile payments adoption, and sort of a surprising finding that it wasn't as high as maybe people would have expected from COVID.
Yeah, the report's at payments.com, and it focuses on Apple Pay particularly, and they note that 6% of iPhone users have opted into Apple Pay and use it regularly. And this compares to only to 5% in 2015. So they explore this lack of growth in Apple digital wallet payments, which is, 20% growth over 6 years is not very much. But they also highlight the fact that this year, 2021 compared to 2019, cash use declined, not a big surprise. Credit card use increased by 33%. Debit card use declined by 7%. That's a little strange, but could be that people didn't have as much money in the bank. But mobile wallet use in store declined 26%. And in the context of that, Apple did not decline at all. In other words, their share of mobile wallet users went up. And the other interesting tidbit is that in 2015, that 6% spent $5 billion. Now 6% of Apple users spend $90 billion. So it's a real money.
So they're saying $90 billion is coming through Apple Pay?
Yes.
That's quite a lot of money.
That is quite a lot of money. The question is, why is it not more successful? It's an interesting question to me.
That's my weekly grocery bill at this point, I think.
Yeah, you must shop at Whole Foods, not Albertsons.
I do about half 50% of the time.
Not just shop at Whole Foods, but have Instacart deliver it or whoever. So it ends up being another 30% on top of it. You're living the good life, eh? But what's interesting to me is why hasn't, digital wallet use become more widely adopted, and Apple in particular? For me, the phone has never been that useful, but when I got my watch, Apple fanboy that I am, although I got this one because I wanted to do heart monitoring, the Apple fanboy that I am, this actually made me use Apple Pay a lot more, didn't require me to take the phone out. So some of it is convenience and use case of the phone. It's like just as easy to take your wallet out as it is to take your phone out. But other devices like my watch, I think, break through that. Your guys' thoughts?
Well,
I don't know. I'm not an Apple Watch guy. I have my phone out while I'm waiting in line at the grocery store anyway, because I'm checking my fantasy football lineup or, reading The Athletic or whatever I'm doing. So it's like I already have my phone out. I actually have my card that my credit card actually in a pocket on the back of my phone. So it's like the tap to pay thing works just fine for me. And I don't think it's solving a major problem. Now, where that changes potentially is, if there's some integration with this new, the new walkout to purchase phenomenon that Amazon and others are sort of piloting, that could get me to, really start adopting it. But I don't know to what extent that's going to be tied in. Obviously, Amazon and Apple are not exactly, fraternal at this point.
Right.
So, but I don't think that the default setup for Apple Pay just isn't that compelling for me to want to use it. So
I'm probably a 1%er when it comes to Apple Pay on my phone, because I use it more than any other payment mechanism. Right? I never use cash at this point, and rarely do I take out a credit card and swipe it or put it into the card reader. It's just very. I don't have an Apple Watch. I have an Amazon Halo with it's just a pure fitness monitor. But for me, it's very easy and convenient. It's faster than a credit card. If you've got a chip, you have to put it in, wait, pull it out.
No, you don't. I have the tap to pay. Well, just hold it over for a second. Yeah.
Not all cards are NFC enabled, but yes, you're right. That's equally convenient. But there have been numerous occasions when I have, as I've said, I think on previous podcasts, where I've gone to the grocery store and my wallet is at home, because I for so long I didn't leave the house, so it's like only to go to the grocery store.
Greg, I have one critical question. Did you remember your pants?
Sometimes I don't. about 50% of the time.
Oh, okay.
No, so things have really gone to seed around here. I have to tell you. But I've gone to the grocery store and thought, shit, my wallet's back in this bowl near our front door. I have my keys, I have my phone, but it doesn't stop me because I go in and I just use the phone to pay. No harm, no foul. In the past, it had been like, oh, I've got to go back and get my wallet. So I'm a big fan of it. But I was really surprised that the number was as low as it is, although the dollars are very large.
I think one of the point that David brought up about his card being able to do tap to pay points out that there's this tremendous. Initially, there was an inconsistency on the terminal side. Not enough people had the correct terminals. Now that's all fixed. But now there's an inconsistency on the card side. Like some places don't take American Express, and my local credit union isn't in Apple Pay, so I have to pull out my traditional card there and stick the chip in. It's not tap to pay. So there's this inconsistency from a rural area where I still don't have Apple Pay on all my cards, and I don't even have anything like tap to pay to my tap to pay. So I think some of the problem is that there's just not a uniform way that works all the time in every situation, and just easier to keep using what works.
I think what one interesting point that I made before we started recording is that, if I can be self-congratulatory, one of my more interesting ideas. I forget about it. It's not it's an interesting observation about the world, not interesting. Anyway, it doesn't matter. So you didn't, as you were pointing out, Mike, on the terminal side, everybody didn't take Apple Pay or didn't have the capacity to take NFC payments. They didn't have the right reader. Now, with a lot of small businesses with the Square reader, everybody went to that because they had to take credit cards, and those are also enabled to take mobile payments. The merchant problem is largely solved. I mean, I'm in the San Francisco Bay Area, so it may not be typical of every metro area in the country, but that I don't encounter places where they can't take a credit card, or they can't, mostly can't take Apple Pay.
Well, when you come for your haircut on your vacation,
yes.
I'll show you a few places.
Well, right. You're in the areas where they're shutting down the local newspapers. So
yes,
unfortunately,
yeah.
Okay, so the third.
Well, before you go on, I just want to conclude this by I think that I've always thought that digital payments, tap to pay, is important. The question is, will it rise from sort of relative obscurity in the future, and David says no, you say yes.
Well, I know I don't. It may never be a mainstream thing. I mean, I think the technology infrastructure that supports NFC, that tap to pay, mobile payments, whatever. I think that's in place. It sort of doesn't matter in a way whether people are tapping to pay or using their watch or using their phones. I mean, the point is convenience, and that merchants need to support convenience.
Right. And although a lot of the failure of uptake was originally due to Walmart and Walgreens fighting this trend, right? And now I feel like the trend is being fought not by those folks, but maybe by the MasterCard and Visa folks with alternative products, right? So I think it's really a question of who's going to let who take a cut of what at this point.
Well, so there's a really interesting alternative discussion that we won't have today about buy now, pay later, and that whole phenomenon. That's becoming a huge thing, and it's kind of starting in some cases to supplant credit card usage online. And a logical place for that to go would be to go offline as well. But we'll see what happens with that. But it's really a big phenomenon and pretty interesting. And it's a way for merchants to get away from the credit card fees. I mean, Amazon is pushing it. They invested in Affirm because they hate the credit card fees, and a lot of merchants do.
Thanks for joining David, Mike, and Greg. To stay on top of the latest developments in local, subscribe to our newsletter at nearmedia.co. We'll see you next week.